Welcome to Albany County Direct. I'm your host, County Executive Daniel P. McCoy. And for today's episode, I'm joined by the extraordinary Mary Rozak, my Chief Communications Officer, who's been by my side almost 14 years. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So we're going to do something a little bit different this time. Instead of me doing the interview, I'll be the one answering questions today about my recent State of the County address. And Mary, take it away, because I'm off the hook right now.
Well, no, you're going to be in the driver's seat when it comes to talking about your State of the County. So you just delivered your State of the County very recently. I don't want to say days or weeks by the time this gets posted, but you delivered your State of the County. You've done it now for 14 previous times.
Yeah.
Right?
Can't believe it.
Let's
start. A ride.
I know, but let's start. I feel like that commercial. You've just delivered the State of the County. Where are you going? You're going to Disney, right?
I wish I was going to Disney. My granddaughter would love that.
So, what made this year, before we start with some of the in-depth questions, what made this year's State of the Address any different than the others you've delivered before?
We're at a pivotal time in our nation. And, we have done a lot of extraordinary things, but to me, it wasn't about a victory lap or patting ourselves on the back, because there's more work to be done. There's always more work to be done. But seeing on a national level and a statewide level the disagreements with people, I've never seen this in my lifetime. And I've talked to people older than me and that were in politics a long time, mentors that I have that I still talk to. And I'm like, and they're like, I've never seen this bad. I've talked to politicians from all walks of life that are like, I'm getting out. And I'm like, why? And they're like, the polarization, the fighting, the neighbor against neighbor. It's no longer that we agree to disagree. It's like us versus them. And it's kind of what I said in my State of the County, where we treat everyone as enemies on the battlefield. And to me, that's not the foundation of this nation. We can agree to disagree. And you see media now, papers across this country that are more like taking a side, instead of reporting about journalism and being objective. It's no longer. It's like, they're boom, 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 boom. That's not what media is supposed to do. They're supposed to report it and let us decide, right? Not steer the narrative. And it's just the left side, the right side. Both parties are equally wrong, the Republicans and Dems, so don't get me wrong. And then the conservatives and the working families, independents, you name it. Any organization, we're all guilty of it. And today, the other issue is we have everything in our hands now. Like, I can put anything out. We can do podcasts. We can do social media. You don't have to rely on the TVs and the papers anymore, right?
Right. You can get your news or not news from just a variety of sources. Yeah.
And it's crazy where these kids go, and anyone can write it and they believe it, right? And to me, unity is really what stood out and what I want to stand out. Like, yeah.
And that's what you said a lot about. Talk about that. It was woven through your entire State of the County. You talked about unity.
Yeah.
And you say you haven't seen this before. I think you started seeing some of this maybe in 2017. We started doing the healing moments and all
Correct.
of that. But it's built to a place where you needed to call for unity throughout your speech.
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, like I said that about, the big, beautiful bill. I talked about ICE, and, I get that. But there's everything going on, and, people, whether they agree with immigration, don't agree with immigration, it's here. It's, listen, I can't cry about something that's already happened. All I can do is try to fix what's in front of us and do what's best for our people moving forward. I hear all sides, and I got to the point where I try not to push my narrative out there, because I represent 300 and roughly anywhere between, I think it's like 330,000 people now, and I work for everyone in this county. But as leaders, we lead by example, and when we're named, I see papers doing it, write articles, and they're calling out politicians for name calling, and they're doing the same thing, right? I read it, and I'm like, and I don't want to pick on certain people, and I could, because I'm sitting there and like, well, they were always objective, but wow. They're angry now, and it's coming across that in editorials, stories, media stories, and I'm like, and it's kind of like the news here locally. I like it. They're just, it's objective. It's not one way or another. They're putting it out there for a seat. But you see on a national level, Democrats go to CNN, Republicans go to Fox News, this one goes to MSN, and it's nuts to me. And I'm just like, look, it's like what I said about Tip O'Neill, 47th Speaker of the House, that basically, all politics is local. And we need to, I can sit there and go, Mary, I don't agree with you. There's a lot of people that don't agree with me. There's people that agree with me. You can agree to disagree and still have dialogue. And, I use an example, and I get beat up for this by the local media, that my relationship with Steve McLaughlin across the river, staunch Republican, him and I don't agree on one thing. Well, we have our arguments, we have our debates, but privately, right?
Right.
And we go back and forth. But we also sit there and say, what works in your county works in my county that we can do. We've done a lot of joint projects together. We found common ground that we can agree on. I'm the county executive that has to lead with a steady hand for my county, right? And that's what I try to do. And even in the New York State Association of Counties, with Steve Aquario and the team there, people don't care. They don't care if I'm calling out, the president or the vice president, or I'm calling out the governor or whoever it may be. All they care about is the services they want to make their lives better, to live.
How it impacts them. And so that's where I need you to talk about what you said in terms of leadership and some of the points that you hit on. Affordability is one of the points that you were talking about during your State of the County. And I know that recently you also just talked about with affordability the First Time Home Navigator program, and so the Housing Revolving Loan Fund, things like that. Talk about affordability and what your message is.
I love my county. I love my state, right? But we always think everything was created here, and we think we're smarter than the rest of the country. I have no issues going to other states. I'm on the board of directors for the National Association of Counties, right? The biggest, one of the biggest associations in the country. And we have meetings around, and I try to go to the best of my ability, and it's hard, right? But I went out to Seattle and, met with the county executive out there at the time, Dow, and met with him on a couple things because we did, we've done a couple programs that we took from King County, Seattle, that was doing things. But I looked at the housing. I went to Portland, looked at the housing, the crisis they're having in Texas when we were there, and I started exploring the neighborhoods and seeing what works and doesn't work. And the one in Texas was the most successful, but they're tiny homes. Okay, now everyone's in till they're not in. And I'll say this about the town of Bethlehem: it took 8 years to get Hudson on the 9 through. People fought it. It's beautiful housing. It can be done. You just got to have willing partners. My hat's off to Van Leuven, the supervisor, the town board for keeping this going, and everyone that was involved with this, and more importantly, Joanne Cunningham, the legislature chair, and everyone else. So as we looked at what can we do to make a difference, so the navigating program, and when talking to people, and listen, I'm not the expert. I don't pretend to be the expert. I get the experts. I always say, don't be afraid not to be the smartest person in the room. Surround yourself with the most smartest people you can find. You'll do extraordinary stuff. I know that. I know everyone, I don't think I know every answer, but I go find the expert and get my opinion that way.
Well, the bottom line is you want success, and it means bringing in the right people to do the job. Right.
And the hardest thing I heard, and again, typical, person, I got winded here, the navigating is the red tape, the overwhelming stuff they throw at you, not understanding it. People get frustrated. They don't understand what's PMI. Why do I got to pay that? What do I got to, So it's just so much for them. Right? We get a navigator, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't know where it was going to go. I didn't know if we were going to help 10 people, but to find out we helped over 2,100 people navigate that system is a home run, in my opinion. I would have been happy with 10 people.
And that was in the first 6 months, I think it was, that you were talking about.
It turned out to be a bigger success than we have, partnering with strategic partners in the community, too. So I want to say this, we're not the experts, so I love it when certain radio shows get on us and they're like, hey, McCoy thinks he's... No, I go to the people that are the experts, and we partner with them, and they run with it. We just set the partnership up. Because I said this, I'm only successful because of my partnerships. I'm only successful because I'm partnering in the community to get things done. And that's what we can't lose sight of. So if any, the unity through my speech, emphasizing... now's the time for us to come together. Now's the time for true leaders. I don't care about party politics. I really don't. And I got nothing. I'm a Democrat. I stand with the Democratic Party. I'm vice chair of the state Democratic Party. I'm proud of but at the end of the day, I want to take care of people. My mission is to make sure they have everything they need for their quality of life, to improve their quality of life, and to make sure they're not worried about a roof over their head. The homeless people we have in our community, tackling everything, and not everything's perfect. I said to people, I go, listen, I'm not afraid to fail. Go ahead, I'm not. I don't want to fail. For obviously because my local media people here beat me up, but I can dust myself off, said I tried, and re-engage and learn lessons learned from that failure.
Let's talk about something that there were those who said you were going to fail when it came to the College of St. Rose.
Oh, my, yeah.
And
they're still saying that.
There were some that said that, and yet, let's talk about economic opportunities, because that very squarely is a solid example of something that has not failed. Let's talk about the economic opportunities and start with St. Rose.
So it was tricky, right? I did work with the College of St. Rose, Marshall White, and them at the time when they knew their own fiscal situation that they were in, and tried to partner with them and offered to put money up. We want to sustain the college. College has been a fabric of our community for over 100 years. It's a lot of people walk through these hallways. I was in someplace down in South Carolina, Charlottesville or something, and I went on a horse buggy ride with my wife, and they're like, "Oh my God, you're from Albany? Yeah, I graduated from the College of St. Rose," and it's just. The impact that it has on our community, people don't know. Jimmy Fallon, I could just go on with the different stars, right? So we tried to work with them. It wasn't, obviously they were closing, not to get into that situation. And no one wants to buy it because everyone's going to wait for a fire sale. But you got buildings that were built for a school, nothing else but a school. People don't understand that. So we went through it. We got it. And for a price, I actually will tell you, I think I paid $4 million more than I wanted to. I really only wanted to pay $31 million. I actually only wanted to pay $26 because I knew it had to be a variation of work. So, and everyone that I partner with, and this is what surprised me, that McCoy's being secretive. These are the same people I gave to the JLL in St. Rose. I said, here's who I would partner with in the community. Here's who I would work with. These are the people you need to bring in. And I left it to them. That my job was over with. I wasn't their rep. They were paying JLL I think $2.5 million to sell the property and revamp it. And that's okay. So I said, I had lunch at the Fort Orange Club. I said, here's what I would do. Here's what I attack. And I just took that sheet I gave them when this, closed, and I went after them. And we tackled people to say, hey, look, this is a good relationship, partnership going forward. I can't thank President Habitant Rodriguez enough. He is just an extraordinary leader, and I love his background from Puerto Rico, the way he grew up. And I know I don't have time to get into that. Yes, I love the guy to death. He's just been an inspiration to the Capital Region. And he's
playing a role. He in the University of Albany are playing a role.
Yeah, he was a huge role to have him come in the first domino of the fall, right? And the first domino that fell was that, and we did a strategic partnership, and people were like, well, they paid $12 million, they should have paid $30 million. Everyone knows what we paid people, okay? And if you think a company's coming in going to say, I'm going to give you top dollar, they're not, because...
Well, no, it's all about business, right?
Correct.
You need to be fiscally prudent. They want to be fiscally prudent. Let's talk, as we're talking about...
I do want to say this, though.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
this is your interview. But I do want... I talked to Luke from the Business Review, and he was like, wow.
Luke Nathan, yeah.
Yeah, Luke, and he's like, oh, well, you're doing a secret. And yes, to a degree.
Well,
I meet with
right?
companies, and I said, because there's so much... available real estate downtown Albany and throughout Albany County in different areas, right? So if I announce I'm working with Mary Rozak Communication Company to take over a building, you're going to get 15 phone calls the minute they find out I'm doing, when you do the 90-day statement, because you're not obligated. They're not obligated.
Right.
The board still has to approve it.
Sure.
So and they start getting offers. Well, come with us and we'll give you this and we'll give you that.
It's not secret. I think what we need to make sure that people understand is this is done with discretion. It's discreet because you need to make sure that things are somewhat confidential.
Oh, no. Yeah, I'm not talking about the
product. Yeah.
I said, look, I meet with a lot of people. I've walked this campus on Saturdays, Sundays, nighttime, 10 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock in the morning. If someone calls me and says, hey, I want to take a look, I jump in my car and I get up here if I'm not here already. And I knew I had to have boots on the ground, so to speak, not to sound like the military guy that I am. I knew I had to be here because I had to make this work.
Right.
I couldn't let this fail. So I met with a lot of people that had a lot of not good things to say about the last administration in the city and what they felt about investing here, and they wouldn't. I'm not going to go public with that. And again, they're trusting me and their confidence of their conversation not to do that, and I don't. And trust me, there's a lot of times I want to, but I'm not going to do that because you got to have that trust factor. And I'm like, all right, but hey, this is why I think you should come here. And you know what? To say that right now we got $29.5 million paid
and
off.
That's where my question was. Yep.
And we're going to be announcing some other 90 days that's going on. Hopefully be announcing some other stuff, and I'm not going to say because I don't want someone to dig into the next two great extraordinary things we're going to announce, because I always get in trouble, because then once I say it, someone's going to start calling around as a reporter and trying to figure it out. But we'll make two announcements, and we're going to be at the $35 million. In theory, it takes time to close.
Yep.
We're not going to close overnight. I know we're working on phase 3 for senior housing, affordable housing, senior places, or senior center we got to announce. There's so many great things going on, and that's the difference when you're all on the same sheet of music. As I said, my state of the county and rowing in the same direction. The partnership with the legislature, it's the best partnership I've ever had. Joanne and Wanda and Dennis are a little tough to deal with at times, and I'm saying that tongue in cheek, but I do mean that. They are tough, and Joanne doesn't hold back. It's, we have our disagreements privately. Same thing with Wanda and Dennis Feeney. So it's all good. But we're doing extraordinary stuff together, and we realize working together gets more done than us versus them. And that's where this country's at, us versus them. And that's what I'm saying. It's like I've watched families that aren't brothers and sisters that aren't talking. We do need a healing moment, and that's why it was important to get the chapel back open, Deborah Tana back in there. And
do you know how many people say that they are so thrilled that is back open? You hear that all the
when
time.
the clergy split over this, the clergy needs to lead. And look, I don't want to pick on them, but they also need to lead from the front and say, hey, the clergy is supposed to bring us together. We can believe in whatever God you want to believe in, whatever religion you want to be, and not be discriminated against. But at the end of the day, the clergy has an obligation to bring us all together, same as politicians. And I watch, and part of it, I had some people get a little mad at me, and I'm like, yeah, I was taking a shot at everyone, because you know what, at the end of the day, and being facetious, saying what I said was, we don't need the armchair politicians that sit there and critique other people when they're trying to do something extraordinary because they can beat you up, or take a shot because the media is looking for a quote, or they put their finger up in the air and they go, oh, the wind's blowing this way. I'm going to go with this. It's my job to not be popular at times and make the hardcore decisions. And I'm hoping at the end of the day, and there's no disrespect to the Pine Hills Neighborhood Association, but it forced me to walk around 3 times. Because I couldn't trust the board anymore, because the board was saying one narrative and people in the community were saying another narrative. So I'm like, I got to meet the people where they live. And I knocked on doors and people were like, what the hell are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm just knocking on the door, just letting you know what's going on. And they were so thrilled, Mary. They were so happy that the campus had people here securing it. You know what this place would look like if we didn't do what we did right now? God only knows, right?
It would not look good.
No, and again, and we had to move quick. And I never thought, like, when I saw this editorial from this local paper, I was like, oh my God, I'm being criticized for moving too quick, and I need to take more time and study. Well, College St. Rose studied for 3 years fighting to keep it open. Then they did the study to sell off buildings, and no one said anything. Studies are great, don't get me wrong. They cost a lot of money. And I have a report from JLL in the College of St. Rose that spent thousands and thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars on studies that I could go off of, right? And I'm like, oh, they 72 buildings. There was 92. They sold off, over 20 buildings, and no one blinked an eye and asked what they sold it for, right? They just sold them off.
There's time to study, and there's time to make a decision.
And I said, I hate to say this. I said, if it costs me the election, at the end of the day, if I can do a mixed-use campus, and we got some partnerships that we're going to be announcing, that I think the neighbors are going to be very happy. I had staff talk to the restaurants in the neighborhood, the pizza places, offered them to come in here to have a satellite store. We're not trying to compete against it. We want to help it. And me and Apple were joking. He's like, yeah, my staff.
Sheriff,
yeah, he's like, Sheriff Apple. He's like, I'm going to have to put my people on a diet. They're walking up to the stores for lunches. They're eating here locally. It's saving these businesses that relied on the college students that aren't here anymore. So as more people come on this campus and start going to the restaurants up the street, or the pizza places, or the Five and Dime store across the street, it's only going to enhance the people to stay here.
It's all the chicken egg. It's all one.
Which benefits the neighbors, because these stores are closing. CVS is going. Coffee shops going. I think it's open up again. The movie theaters hanging on by a string. The restaurants up the street. I don't want to say, people are having, I hear it. They're like, hey, I'm barely staying afloat. I got no lunch crowds. I got no one here.
But you have things happening on the campus, so you need something on the campus.
Correct. Yes, we're going to announce that today. So, which is cool.
RFP stuff going on.
We had all these RFPs going out. out on bringing food in. Listen, we had a brew pub, we had a barbecue place. We've had a lot of interest to do a lot of things, but we had to stabilize the EOC, stabilize the programs, get us up and running. Now we're at that point. We had to replace 3 furnaces that cost us $1 million. I mean, when I say they haven't done maintenance, deferred maintenance, probably in 5 years, I'm guessing 8, because when they're running out of money, we're having from the roofs leaking, toilets not working, furnaces not working, heat not working, electric not working, short now. It's costing us a lot more money than we anticipated. So the quicker I can turn this around, the better off it is for the community and for us.
So you have said, you were very clear that the state of the county is strong. And as we wrap up, we've talked a lot about St. Rose, and this may be the answer to the question I'm going to ask you, but what do you think is the single initiative this year that you think is going to have the greatest long-term impact? If it's St. Rose, that's fine, but think about that. It may be something else.
That's a tough one. So there's so much stuff going on, from the announcement we did with the old McDonald's site for a transportation hub that this city is long overdue, and shame on all of us for letting it sit the way it sat.
This is a big deal. It's a very big deal.
It is a big deal. And people are like, well, what's it matter? There's a lot of people in the community that use these buses, that this is a benefit. And, it's hard. Yes, the college, that's just like a token of what we're doing. We got the Buddhist property we talked about up in Burn, Knox, Westerlo, off for Albany County Route 1. Extraordinary project that's going to be finishing out the camps in a partnership with Sheriff Apple. That's done. We're going to announce a ribbon cutting on that. The rail trail, but the LTAC property in Watervliet, which is the biggest blueprint we have left.
Which the deed just transferred to Albany County?
Yes, it did. Days ago. And we have rail, we have high power there. So we have an opportunity to really do extraordinary stuff. So more to be tuned into. And as we reshuffle our county workforce, I'm not a band of downtown Albany, so I always chuckle when people say that, right? At the end of the day, what we're doing is, we're setting the stage to put probation back on the tax rolls, DSS probably back on the tax rolls, moving things around. Stay tuned. We had to deal with the OCA to move, help with the court system, and what happened was the last administration didn't want to do it, and I don't know how far we are. There's some extraordinary stuff that we're going to do and keeping taxes down to the best of our ability. And that's one of the things that I said to everyone listening to this, saying please to the Senate and Assembly, don't pass the buck down to us. Don't, you have to make hard decisions when you're in office. Make them decisions. You either got to cut programs or you got to fix it or move forward, right? We got to do something, and now's the time for thinkers, not passing the buck around. So then I'm raising taxes. I haven't raised taxes in 12 years. The unfunded mandates is what kills us. Now we got the towns and villages trying to push everything up to us. They got a resolution they're trying to put in now this year that we absorb their taxes and we pay for everything. It's crazy. If government needs to consolidate, if it's at a crucial time right now and they don't have the money to operate these villages and towns, then you need to incorporate into the bigger town or into the county and dissolve government, because you're going to save money that way. Because obviously you're saying you can't afford it, right? So if you can't afford it, then I would say to them, then maybe you need to put it on the ballot and consolidate into the county and be done. If that's what you want me to pay your bills, I definitely want to know how you're running things. But I do want to say, Mary, thank you. Kind of twisted. I twisted it back on you. But to our viewers, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to check us out on other episodes on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and subscribe so you stay in the know. And again, thank you to everyone that listens and comments back.